Good morning everyone, welcome to my channel. Okay, I've got just a quick little project that I want to try out. It's been rattling around in the head for a little while. I've got a heap of these paper pads. Most of them out there are 6 by 6 inches. This one is 6.5 inches by 6.5 inches. They sort of are around that sort of size. We pick them up, we put them in the cupboard, and I very rarely use them. So I've just grabbed one out. The first one I did grab was quite a thick paper, and it was printed on the back as well as the front. And I sort of put it back because I think it would be too heavy for what I want to use. It might work, but I sort of dropped back to one of the cheaper ones, which I've still got hundreds of anyway. So it'll be so good to use one of these packs for something. So what I want to do is create an ephemera book to hold some fussy cut flowers. This is how this has all come about. I purchased this little kit. I don't need fussy cut flowers. Seriously, I don't know even why I bought this kit, but it caught my eye. It was on sale. Etsy suggested it. You know how it goes. Just follow that lead. And the little shop, I'll show it to you, is Scrappy Craft Designs. If I bring that up to the camera, Scrappy Crafts Designs. Etsy suggested it to me. I believe they're 50% off at the moment. And yeah, long story short, I bought these fussy cut kits. Now she's got all sorts of things in there, all sorts of topics, sort of random pieces, great for what we do. And I spotted these vintage flowers. So long story short, I printed them out, and each page had about 9 on it, and there were 3 pages, so I got a lot of variety. And I did it in 2 sizes, and what I mean by that is I did an 85% and the normal size. So that's the normal one, and that's 85% smaller. So it sort of is a great sort of in-between size. So I've cut them all. Yes, I need a life, but they're all cut and they're organized. So I want to keep them that way. So I come into the craft room this morning looking for one of my ephemera folders to, you know, slide them into, which I've got a few already dedicated to certain things, but they're full. Like I said, I don't really need any more fussy cutting kits, but we have another one. So I went to the cupboard to get some scrapbook paper, saw a mountain of these things and thought, time to do something. What I want to do is revisit a concertina spine that I did years ago in a photo album. It sort of is a bit of a photo album technique, more so than junk journal, but the principle I think will work for what I want to do. And the first thing I did is I grabbed a page and I scored it at half an inch all the way through, and folded it into a fan shape like so. And then I realized it wouldn't work because I want to use these peaks to insert my pages over them, which is the technique we're heading for. Then I realized I don't actually have a spine between them. Well, I could, but my spine would be 1 inch wide. See that there? Too wide. Great for a photo album because they have flip-flops and they put magnets in and they layer waterfalls of paper and all sorts of stuff. So that would work for a magazine, a photo album, but not for what we want to do. So I had to revisit my theory here, and I went back and I scored a little 1/8 of an inch between each 1 and 1.5 inch score line. So what I mean by that is if I zoom this in and show you, I hope this makes sense. I've already scored the piece, so I thought that might help by showing you the lines as well. So the first score is at 1.5. That first section will glue to the cover to anchor all of this. Then I started my actual building of my page area. So I then scored at the 1 inch line and the 1.5 inch line. Okay, that's the first little hump that we'll be attaching the pages to. This will make sense, I'm sure, as we go. Then I scored the next line at 1/8 of an inch. So that gives me a tiny itty bitty spine. Okay, Then you start the process again. Now, if you're good at maths, you would realise the next score would be 2 1/8. But I'm not good at maths, and it would have been a mess by the time I got to it. So all I'm going to do is the last line that I scored, this little 1/8 of an inch, I'm going to move it up to the 2. So it's now sitting right on the 2-inch line. Then I start again. I do a 1/2 inch, a full inch, and there's my little 1/8 of an inch, just an itty bitty one. Then I'm going to move that up to the 4th inch line, and I'm going to start again. 1/2 inch, full inch, and a little itty bitty 1/8 of an inch. And once again, I'm going to move that last line I scored up to the 6, and then start again. 1/2 inch, a full inch, and a little itty bitty one. And then I'll finish with, I might just slide that back to the 7 so that I've got my 1-inch line marked. I'm going to finish it off with 1/2 inch and the full inch, and then I've got this little bit left. I think this will work. The first one didn't. So then you've got to score it. And we need lots of picks. So concertina. Will this work? Will this work? So we're scoring so that we have this little peak. Does that make sense? There we go. Then we're going to have the little 1/8 of an inch as our little itty bitty spine. So it's quite fiddly. It'll make sense when you start playing with it. And we're going to score that little one there. So there's our little spine, that little 1/8 of an inch. Let's get... Okay. Just trying to get my fingers in a position. I'm thinking about you guys and how easy or not this is to see. So then I'm going to go along to the next one and bring it up. Maybe if I do all of the 1/2 inch lines first. Maybe that's easier. So everywhere I did the 1/2 inch is the peak. Let me just get that out of the way. That looks a little easier to at least show you. So the peak for the page to attach to that I'm going to be using as the actual pages, I'm scoring that first. I might even add the glue, and that'll hold it and make it easier to get that little 1/8 of an inch spine in amongst it. Yeah, that will work. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, you can see the little 1/8 of an inch spine developing there. That's that little edge there. That's so we're going to put glue in that valley. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so let's have a go at gluing these spines together. So I'm just going to use my art glitter glue, put lots of glue in there because we want it to not come apart. Now you could use double-sided tape to do this, which is a classic photo album construction process. So once that's glued into position, we should see the little 1/8 of an inch spine. You see it sitting there? So now I'm going to glue this next valley, but not put any glue on that little 1/8 of an inch spine. That's just to give our pages room to have pockets and to hold the actual ephemera. You sort of need that little gap, I think. Well, I'm pretty sure we do. Like, I haven't made one of these before. So I hope I'm right. Let's have another. Oh, it'd be so good to have something to use these little paper pads for. So there we go, we've got another one stuck together. Does that make sense? And there's a 1/8 of an inch little gap in between each one of these. We'll call them mountains. Let's give them names so we know what the hang we're talking about. We're building mountains and valleys. So now we've got on 2 little mountains with a little gap in between. So let's do it again. Let's get the glue. Down through the center. It's like a concertina, but not. Well, it is a concertina. So I've got glue now in there, and as I bring that together, we've just created another mountain. Yep, great. Yep, that's going to work. So I might just do a bit of burnishing. That'll really help that glue as well. Oh, it's fiddly, isn't it? Fiddly, fiddly. But once you get your paper into the shape you want, this should work. Yep, that looks good. Did I glue past? Oh no. Yeah, I did a little bit. Oh, it's a bit fiddly. The main thing is that we get a bit of a gap between all these pages, which looks like is going to happen. So now I can glue the next one. Once again, whoops, come here. Bit of burnishing really helps those creases. Gosh, I haven't made anything like this for ages. I've been so immersed in slow stitch and junk journals, or journal making. There's the next valley, and then we're close to the end. So I need some more glue in there. So I hope that makes sense. I've got a piece of paper here. I might just write down again what I did, just in case you're looking at the stream going, what are you talking about, Corrine? And that's the final little concertina with glue. Whoops. Okay. That's pretty good. We've got our 1/8 of an inch or thereabouts spine. My scoring must have been a little bit crooked down that bottom end, but it doesn't matter. It's my prototype. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter. It's just paper. I think it will work, even though that's not absolutely perfect, that scoring. I don't think it'll matter. The main thing is we've got this little spine now that we can use to attach things through. So it's like a floating spine, if you will. just doesn't seem to be enough gap there for that one to sit in. Oh, it's fiddly. There we go, that's better. Okay, so there's our spine. So, piece of paper. I'll just write down what I did. So I scored at the 1/2 inch and I did a line. Then I scored at the 1 inch and then I scored at the 1.5 inch. All right, so that there is the peak that we can see here. And the glue was in underneath this to glue it together. Then I need a little gap, and that's where this little 1/8 of an inch came down. Then to make it easier on myself, so I didn't have to mathematically work it out from that point, I then just jiggled the paper along so that this little 1/8 of an inch score line was now back on. See that big dark line on my black pad there? It was now back on 1 inch. So then I start again. So then I would do 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and then the little guy again. Then I move the paper again so that I didn't have to figure this out. So that last little one I did, the little fella, is back onto a 1 inch. So then I did another one and another one. So that gives me that 1/2 inch gap between. Then I did my little guy. Does this make sense? Then I just shimmied the paper along so I'm back to square again. And that's purely just so that you don't have to try and mathematically work out where your next score line is. You're doing this following little pattern. So once again, a 1/2 inch, a 1/2 inch, and an 1/8 of an inch. And that little 1/8 of an inch, that little gap, is just giving us room for all of these fussy cut flowers to sit in pockets, plus the pockets themselves. So we've created our little spine. So let's grab a couple more pieces of paper and we'll have a think about what we do next. Now, if I remember rightly, we used to trim them so that our pages could slide over easily. So I think this is the next thing we should do. Cut the corners off everything. Because the pages are going to slide over these little spine tabs. I don't know what the name of them is, but that sounds impressive. I'll call them tabs for the spine. So out of my 6.5 inch paper pad, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spine tabs. There's 5 of them there that we can attach to, which is not bad. Now, if you've got a 6 inch paper pad, you won't get as many. You'll be one less spine, and you may need to trim it so that it sort of finishes up you 1 6 inch. So you won't have this last little bit here. That's the 1/2 inch that I picked up on my paper pad. See, it's 6.5 inches. So that little half won't be there. So you will get 4 spines and you will have nearly 1 inch of paper left. Now, if you're tricky, you might be able to space your lines out slightly different, but as long as the principle is the same. But my guess is you'll have 1 inch left and you can just trim that little excess off. Not that you even need to trim the excess off because it's going to be hidden by the cover. See that? That will go onto there to make the cover of our little booklet. Does that make sense? Now I'm wondering if I need to do a spine on the back to anchor this. Do I need to do that? Could I use fabric? It's technically a floating spine. Should I put some fabric in there? All very good questions. Doesn't matter. What would happen if we put... So I sort of want it to look nice too. Do I put fabric on at the end? Don't know. We'll come back to the spine. I've got to have a think about that. The actual pages themselves should be pretty straightforward. We're going to get 2 pieces. Let me take the camera up again. Oh, I love exploring a new project and not knowing where the hell I'm heading with it. It's a lot of fun. The pages. My theory is we put 2 together, and once glued, they can just, with one end open, so that end's open and everything's glued, they just slide onto that spine, and then with a little bit of glue, they're attached. So that's how we're going to do our pages. But before we do, we need to create some pockets. So I'm going to grab another piece of this paper. Or do I use tracing paper? If I use tracing paper, it's not as thick as this. Where's my tracing paper? So, okay, so this is just an art book where you can buy this tracing paper. It sort of feels a bit like vellum. Whether it's as thick as vellum or thinner, that I'm not sure, because I don't have any vellum to compare. So I can't really comment on what it is. So what's the most economical way of doing some pockets? So if our page is 6 1/4, let's cut my tracing paper, 6 1/2. Let's cut the tracing paper to 6 1/2. And we probably would like 2 pockets. Maybe 1 1/2 inches, 2 inches. So if I did a 2-inch pocket, what is the size of that scrap that come off? 1 3/4. That's a pretty good size. 1 3/4. Let's do that. And let's cut this at 6 1/2. I might as well use, oh, no, I'll leave that. Might make a belly band. So 1 3/4. 1 3/4. These are going to be my pockets, 2 per page at this stage. Like, you can put more on your page than 2, but I'm making this for those fussy cut flowers, and they're pretty big. If you were using labels, you might put 3 pockets on. So I'm just slicing up this piece of tracing paper into some strips that are all 1 3/4. So I got a little piece there. I might be able to use that. 2 4 6. So far that's a good start. Let's get this cutting board out of the way. Now, so just remember, mine paper is 6 1/2 inches wide. You might be using a paper pad that is 6. So just adjust accordingly. So now, using this vellum, I'm just going to run a little bit of glue around that edge just to hold it, because I want to pop it on the sewing machine. That really helps. hold it all down. So I might just come up from the bottom a fraction so I've got room for my sewing machine stitch. So that's glued into position. And then we'll put another one on. Really simple. If you don't have a sewing machine, my guess is this glue will hold, but it might pop off one day and you just need to pop a little bit more glue in there. But if you can get access to a sewing machine, I'd probably recommend doing that as well, because it just gives you that little bit extra strength. I should test those little flowers. Yeah, just I could probably do with moving that pocket down a fraction. Okay, so that's the start of the pockets, page number 2. Just not sure what I'm going to do with that spine, how I'm going to present the spine. I'm sure something will come to me. Get these pages sorted. This is going to chew up quite a number of pages, which is good. I cut that at 6.5 and yet it's still hanging over the edge. Goodness me. I think I'm going to use fabric on the back of that and have a soft spine. I'm going to just lower that down a fraction. Won't really matter that it's not the same as the other side because they're opposite. Okay, put the lid on the glue. Give that a little trim. I'm just going to let that sit for a moment so that it dries, because I don't want that glue in around my, my sewing machine needle, but it won't take long. Then I can jump on the sewing machine and stitch those pockets on. So that's 2 pages done. I'm just going to trim this as well because it's a little bit over the edge. And I might just have another look at this spine and see what we can come up with. All right, so that's pretty much how I'll be doing the pages, and then once they're stitched, I will glue them together, but leaving open one of the sides, because then they will slide over our little tabs here, like so. And that's it. It's as simple as that. So the next thing is the cover. I'm liking the idea of gluing that at some point into some fabric. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to grab another 2 pieces. What do I want for the cover? It's all about flowers. Is there something, another floral? That's so pretty. Is there 2 of them? Yep. Okay. So, just thinking this through, I could easily do the same thing. If I glue stitch them together and that slides in there, that'll work. That'll anchor the tabs to my cover, and then I put some fabric at the back. That will work, except I want this pretty gold one to be on the outside. I want that to be the cover. So I might also, I'm going to trim that because I'm going to use the same principle to get the cover to attach to. And instead of sliding it in like the others, we can actually glue that into position without that hassle of sliding. Yeah, I can glue that. So I'm going to put glue down this. I'm just going to come back from the fold edge a little bit, just to give us a little bit of space to wriggle. Like so. Line it up top and bottom. A little bit of space to wriggle. That looks good. Just burnish that so that really grips. I got it up the right way. Oh, no, I haven't. Quick, 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 remove. Goodness me. Lucky I checked. Let's put some more glue on and let's try and attach this cover the right way up. So we're going to do that instead. There we go. All right, so that's correct. That will work. So let's now glue this one, which has no right up or down, does it? Yes, of course it does. We're going to glue this one to there, lining up the edges. And I want a bit extra glue in there because if I don't like having air between large sheets of paper. So I'm going to get my glue stick as well and just really give it a bit of glue. And then I might even run the sewing machine around it as well. Not only will that add a decorative element, it will really make it work well, adhere well. So lots of glue, because you're touching these things all the time when you're crafting. So you want it to all be holding. So I'm going to start at the outer edge first and line that up, top and bottom, and then follow it through into the spine. Okay, put that out of the way. I should have put a little bit of art glitter glue in there as well, but that's all good. It will hold. Just do a little bit of burnishing just to really get that glue moisture into the fibres of the paper. Okay, so now we have one cover attached with our little floating spine in the middle. Very good. I think this will work. Let's have a look at this back one. So we're going to get it the right way up, Corrine, aren't we? Yes, we are. Okay, let's put some glue on here. time I'm finished, if I've used a whole pad of paper, that'd be a bit of a bonus. Okay, that there is now attached as well. Yep. And now our pretty internal page. Probably the trickiest bit is just getting that spine sorted. And at the end of the day, if you wanted your spine to be smaller or bigger, you just cut your paper to suit. You might only want 2 pages in your ephemera book. So you just need the 2 tabs to be coming up with a little 8-inch, not 8-inch, 1/8 of an inch gap. It's upside down. So put your paper on the outer edge first and then come into the center. My glue book out of the way. I like how it's going to sit quite flat on my table. It's quite good. And there's my floating spine at the back. Lovely. Okay. So now what I might do is I'm going to put a piece of paper, fabric over that just to decorate it. Do I need that fabric as wide? Probably not. Could probably trim that down a little bit. And then I can run the sewing machine. Oops, got glue everywhere, glue on fingers. I can run the sewing machine along there as well, just to add that added strength to my piece. So let's get my glue stick. Run some glue in here. Now I'm not putting any glue in the spine area. That's a floating spine, so there's no need for it. That'll allow it to expand or not as needed to. It's quite a good idea, these floating spines. They're not as restrictive as a normal spine. Okay, a little bit of glue this side. And then, like I said, I'll run the sewing machine down there. That's good. That wraps around there nicely. Plenty of room for it to move and flex as we fill it full of goodies. And that'll just give us a little decorative element to that side. I'll just run a little bit more glue down that edge. Now that I know where my boundaries are for the fabric. I should probably stop fiddling with it and let it dry now. Then the sewing machine can come along. Look, considering machines cut this paper in the factory, they never line up properly. A little trim there needed to get rid of white. Now, that's the spine pretty much ready to go. Fabric's a bit crooked, but that's all right. We can trim that. I'll let that dry, and the plan is off camera I will sew around that perimeter. I will add a couple pockets to the inside. I might even use cardstock on the inside. It'll help reinforce the cover a little bit. So let's have a little look at the paper. That green is nice. Let's do 2 pockets, or one, no, I might just do one big pocket. So what measurement would that be? Where's my ruler? That'll just give the cover a little bit more rigidity. 3 inches. Okay, well that'll work. If you're using a 6-inch paper pad, grab another piece of paper and cut it at 3 inches. Now I need to trim mine a little bit, but at the end of the day, I don't think I'll bother, because what's half an inch? So those pockets will be stitched around before I glue them. So that will go onto there. Yep. And this one can go in the back. Now you could do, if you wanted, a belly band. I am going to trim it. That's annoying me. Yeah, I'm going to trim it. Not that you'll see it. For goodness sakes, Corrine, you don't need to, but I'm going to. What we might do, so we've got this nice hard pocket here. I might then, using this scrap that came off, cut a second pocket. And was a little one there. So yeah, I'm going to attach that. Can you see? Like, bring the camera up. Okay. So I'm going to glue this little scrap onto that cardstock pocket, and it'll create a little tuck on the inside. So if you've got something small, like labels or something, they could be tucked in there, because the pockets are quite deep on this, but that's because I'm using them for flowers. So to have a, oh, look at all the glue there. I'm not going to get much into that pocket. Yeah, to have a little pocket on the front. Is not a bad idea. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to go and make the rest of the pages. I'm going to jump on the sewing machine, reinforce them with that little bit extra stitching, and then I'll come back and we'll finish it off. But that was a pretty simple exercise so far, and I think it will work. So I've already got 2 glued. They just need to be stitched and then attached. I've got my inside pockets ready to go. Once that all dries, my cover's pretty much ready to go with a bit of decorative stitching, and I've got room for 1, 2, 3, 4 more pages. So I can now go through here and pick out some more pages, attach some more pockets to them, and then when I get back, I'll do the final construction and show you sort of where I'm at. Okay guys, I'll pause the video, be back in a moment. Hi guys, I'm back. I'm just sitting here gluing all of these little pockets on, and I've done 2 little things I thought I might as well turn the camera on, just tell you about in case I forget when I was coming back to do the final. I ended up trimming these internal pages down by 1/4 of an inch because I want them to sit within the cover. Usually when we make a journal, we do that. We'll have them sitting just inside the cover so that the pages don't bash into anything externally as we, slide it onto a shelf or, and as those covers, those pages inside move around, they're going to be hanging out of our cover. So I've gone through and just trimmed 1/4 of an inch off just to tuck them back down inside. There's plenty of space still. It's not like I'm going to miss that sort of size. The other thing I've done is, as I'm gluing this, I decided I didn't need glue on the bottom. Because the sewing machine's going to hold this, all I'm doing is putting a little bit of glue here, a little bit of glue here, and the sewing machine catches it anyway. It's just, I notice that if I'm a little heavy-handed with my glue, it's oozing everywhere and it's just sort of taking up valuable pocket space. So to reduce that, a little bit of glue on either end only of my pocket, and then I just pop it down and the sewing machine will catch the rest of it. It's just enough to hold it, if that makes sense. So at the end of the day, you can make these pages and your book any size. If you only want an itty bitty one, you can just make it smaller. If you've got a journal and you want to make one for the inside of the journal, so that when you gift your journal to someone or sell it to someone, there's a little ephemera booklet inside. Exactly the same principle. Get your page size you want, get your pockets all glued on, and then you can stuff it full of goodies to go with the actual journal itself. I'll just show you a small version, but doesn't have that concertina spine. Like, that's a tricky little spine, that, and you don't need to use that. You could just use the cardstock folded in half to make a little journal, a little ephemera folder. I'm trying to concentrate and talk at the same time. Can you tell it's not going real well? Last 2 pockets, and then I'll grab the small versions I've got here on my desk. I've got some scraps left over of this tracing paper, so I might even make a little one, and there's still paper left in my paper pack. So I might as well use it. It'd be great to see that paper pad disappear completely and actually be something useful. Okay. Alrighty, glue. So that's all my pages ready to go. I should have exactly enough to do my little booklet. So I'll just let them dry. They've all been trimmed down so that they're now going to sit a little bit inside the cover, which will be good. So that just needs to dry. Now, if you were to make a smaller one, all you'd need is just a piece of paper folded of the cardstock, and then another one, and you could then just, using pamphlet stitch them in, or the sewing machine. In this case, then there's a third one, and there's the pamphlet stitch inside. So how many pieces of paper have we got left? So that's the pockets for this big guy. Let's see. So let's take that one. It's a bit dark and moody. What have we got in here? They're really pretty. They'd be great for card bases. So would that. Oh, I'm getting fussy. Oh, what the hang. Let's just use it all. Rip them all out. Let's do it. The only thing with this paper is it's not double-sided. So you'd need to then just consider, I'm going to use them all. They're all gone. Done. Done. Lots of ephemera booklets. And one piece, one book gone. And these little elements that are left, they can easily be removed. You know, you get some of these little pull-out things. We can add them to our ephemera folders. I used one of those in that tab spine, so. Okay, there's not much left in that book now. How many pages was in it? 36, that's awesome. So, let's have a little think about this. Now, remembering mine is 36 pages and the pages were 6. What am I doing? I don't want to cut it, I want to score it. My pages were 6.5 inches. So that would be, half would be 3 1/4. So let's just score that through there and fold. So there's my little booklet. Now if I do then another one, don't need to really score, I'm just going to fold it in half. There's another one. These would be just fantastic to slide into journals. Let's just fold them all. You could make these in advance, and because they're neutral papers, what's stopping you then just decorating them to suit the journal you're making when you're ready. They're just lovely little pop into a journal. Look, I'm really going for it now. I might leave a couple sheets to do some little pockets on the insides of them. So you've got a couple options. You could glue that to that if you had paper that was, and then that would be double-sided for you. Okay, you could leave it as white. It might already be printed, and then you could stencil in here. You could then add your pockets, and it'd keep the thickness of the cover down a little bit, especially if this was sliding into a journal. But I'm thinking I'm going to attach the pages like so. I'm going to glue them all together to make these little covers. Might as well use the plain pieces on the inside because they're not very exciting. And then I've got all these pretty outside pieces. And that will glue onto there. Like so. Okay, so that'll give me 4 ephemera folders, and then I've got some cardstock left that I can cut some little pockets. I can then come back and potentially stitch 2 together to get some more pages. I could leave them as single. Look, the possibilities are endless. You could really, really, really play. You could even be as tricky and do an open out scenario. So let's say you joined those 2 together with some cardstock so that both of them folded in and then folded in. So when you pull it out of the journal, it opens, and you've got all of your ephemera sitting in front of you. So that's another idea. So let me just bring the camera up a little bit. So from this 6x6 or 6.5 or whatever, there's potential to do all sorts of little ephemera booklets that you could slide into a journal, and that they would hold a fair bit of bits and pieces for whoever got your journal. Now I'm going to stop the video and I'm gonna finish doing the sewing and making pockets. I'll have a play with these and see what different combinations I come up with. And that will be 1 pack of paper gone. Fantastic. Okay, I'll see you all. I'll pause it. I'll be back. Won't be a moment. Hi guys, I'm back. I've been busy sewing, and I had a look at the time we've spent so far on this video, and it's about 50 minutes. So I've only got then 10 minutes left to actually construct it. So I'm not going to do it on this video. I'm going to create a second part B video. So where I'm at so far is I've just been busy sewing around all of the elements for the big ephemera folder. So that was just a case of I just stitched across there and all around the outside of each piece. So that is completed. I will, in the next video, start the building of the pages. Now, as for my little booklet, I haven't yet done any decorative stitching around here. I have stitched the green pockets that are to go here. So I still have a little bit more work to do. And I think in the next video, we might embellish the cover a little bit and play with it because I'll have a little bit more time. So that's where I'm at with that project. Now these little ones, all I've done is just stitched them. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to just have them in this format for now, and they can go into my stash because they can be made into all sorts of bits and pieces. But we'll talk more about that in the next video. So I am going to say goodbye at this point, jump back on my sewing machine and finish the cover stitching. And I'll see you in the next video. Okay, bye guys.